Today's spooky spot's having a look at the final figure from the McFarlane Monsters Twisted Fairy Tales. We're having a look today at Red Riding Hood. Not quite Red Riding Hood as we would so expect, as opposed to the innocent little Red Riding Hood being pursued by the wolf, eventually finding her way to Grandma's house and being once again baited by the wolf in not sheep's clothing, Grandma's clothing. This particular Red Riding Hood, though, has taken charge and delivered maybe perhaps a little bit of justice upon this now poor wolf. It comes to us from the folks over at McFarlane Toys. You can check out more from McFarlane Toys at going to www.spawn.com. It's recommended for ages 17 and up. Spin around the back of the package. The figures we've already had a look at were Humpty Dumpty, Hansel, Gretel, Peter Pumpkin Eater, and Miss Muffet. The read-up says the infamous McFarlane Monsters action figure line is back. Series 4 focuses on beloved fairy tale and nursery rhyme characters all skewed by McFarlane vision into something new and horrible. And by the way, if you were to set your horrific time machine back, you would be going back to 2005 to get these figures in stores. Now, sadly, the biggest scare is going on eBay to find them, especially Red Riding Hood, which seems to be the rarest and hardest to find of all of the figures. I think I also said Humpty Dumpty. There's Humpty Dumpty there too. Couldn't forget Humpty Dumpty. Spot's going to take a very scary break. Get this opened up, and when we come back, we're going to get a better look at the final figure from the Twisted Fairy Tales, Red Riding Hood. There's more heading your way, guys. Don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Now with Red Riding Hood out of her packaging, let's get a better look at this terrifying figure, which consists of actually three different components, I suppose. You've got the poor, and I say poor. I know this wolf has done horrendous things, but gosh darn it, I gotta feel bad for this guy now. We'll get into that in a second. But he also comes, as he doesn't really stand on his own, the wolf also comes with a bloodied pool of his own blood display stand. You have to make sure that you have the right pegs in place, line them up, and snap these together. This one peg, I don't know, it always seems to struggle a bit for myself trying to get, there we go. There we go. And you've now got a wolf that stands up. Don't worry, he's not just going to be floating. That in itself is very scary. Red Riding Hood also holds the wolf. But before we do that, let's look at this wolf. Am I the only one that feels really bad? Yeah, okay, sure, I get it. He approached her in the forest. It was his own fault. He then went to Grandma's house before Red Riding Hood ate poor grandmother, and then decided to hide out in her bed, dressed up as Granny, and hopefully then to consume Red Riding Hood. But I don't know, despite all that, I'm willing to forgive and forget here. I feel bad for this wolf. Maybe I'm the only one, but his innards and everything else is hanging out of this wolf. This wolf has eaten a lot. I don't know, this wolf is too small, I think, to have consumed grandmother, but yet down below, there she is. Apparently grandmother also was only about 3 feet tall. If you look at her proportionately towards, well, I guess component-wise, maybe the arms are about the same size as Red Riding Hood, as well as her head, but I don't know where the rest of her body would have gone. That's the only part of it that we actually see. But there's a lot of guts, there's a lot of gross things all hanging out from this wolf. His innards are everywhere. There's what it looks like on the back. I'm trying to figure out what would be his and what would be Granny's. Where unlike the fairy tale, I don't think Granny is going to be waking up anytime soon. I'm pretty sure the wolf has dispensed poor Granny that no happy endings here. I guess the only happy ending is for Red Riding Hood dispensing justice. She's become her own century's punisher, exacting revenge on behalf of her Granny. So there's the wolf. There's a little section on his cuff. Would you call it the scruff or the cuff, where you can take it and it just attaches to Red Riding Hood's hand. There's not really a section that necessarily pegs into place, so you just have to line it up necessarily until it looks about right. And that's give or take about right for me. In the meantime, we'll just move the wolf over here. Luckily, his innards are going to keep him standing. And let's look at Red Riding Hood. Unfortunately, this figure is super expensive. I don't know why this particular figure of all the other ones. If you check on eBay trying to find these guys, this particular figure is the most expensive. Maybe she was the rarest of the pack. Maybe out of a case there might have been 2 of everyone except for Red Riding Hood, which might have only been the one and only in the case, and that might be why she's so expensive. But she is very, very expensive. She's got a cape, which I suppose theoretically you could try to pry off her shoulders, but it's glued to the top, so I wouldn't do that. You can push back the hood, which is all rubber, and that's what her face looks like underneath. I mean, you could really see her face anyways, but that's what the back of her head looks like. She's kind of wearing more of like a mask going over the top of her. Kind of a luchador mask, really. The inside of the hood, the Red Riding Hood, so to speak, is a darker red. So at least when you have it over top of her, the recessed areas or the areas that are sunken in being the darker red does make the face stand out a little bit more. It kind of gives it that sense of depth. The rest of her outfit is not really... If this is what she's wearing to go see Granny, I'd be wondering what Granny was wearing before the wolf, the wolf came to pay her a visit. She's got these leg-high or thigh-high stockings, but they're covered in spikes. Seriously, are we wearing this to Grandma's house? Something seems a little off about that. Just maybe me. That carries also over to her arms, where she's got kind of like I guess like a glove, but they're fingerless. It only seems to go over the 2 fingers. The rest are opened hands. And then on the other hand, we'll move the cape out of the way. On the other hand, she's got a dagger in hand, which is removable. There is a clear elastic keeping everything together, but you know what? I don't think I could ever see myself displaying her without it, so I probably will never take the elastic band off. I'll just kind of leave it as is. She's very proud of herself, too, having now gutted this wolf. The blood is all over. I mean, that's Exhibit A right there. Animal cruelty, that is Exhibit A right there. There's blood all over that blade. If she was to say, it's not me, it was you. It was you, Red. And she's got some tattoos all over her legs. Some tattoos across the chest area there as well. Yeah, I don't know. Still wondering what Grandma would have been wearing if this is what Red Riding Hood was going to be going dressed as. I also like the fact that the cape drapes down and then flows out onto the floor. Not only does it give her some stability, but it also looks really cool just having it flowing out like that. When it comes to her posability, the wolf has absolutely none. I don't believe the wolf has no articulation to speak of. But Red Riding Hood does have a posable head, posable arms, but I mean, really, she's pre-posed, which is one of the things about McFarlane toys. They're pre-posed. You could pose the arms, but really, like, why would you? Like this section here, you could technically rotate the arm, but you rotate it weirdly, and that is what ends up happening. It just kind of looks disjointed. It makes really no sense. So, yeah, while she does have posability, not really, again, much you're going to be able to do with her. And luckily, though she does have the high heels, the cape does a good enough job of keeping everything together. The final look, of course, getting the wolf back in her hand. It might be a little easier when you've got it on a shelf. There we go. And that's what it looks like. Very gruesome retelling of a classic fairy tale. Pretty much the same thing happened. I think a woodsman ended up saving Red Riding Hood and saving Grandma. Red Riding Hood and Grandma lived happily ever after. The wolf, of course, died. But in this one, no, Red Riding Hood takes charge. Takes matters into her own hands. Doesn't necessarily save Granny. I don't think, again, Granny's coming back from this. But at least got rid of the wolf. Still kind of feel bad for the wolf. Today's spooktacular Spot was having a look at the final figure from the McFarlane Toys fairy tale line. And we were having a look today at Red Riding Hood, which again is, for some reason, just really, really hard to find. Maybe I should have asked the wolf where he found Red Riding Hood. Might have probably got her a little bit cheaper. Certainly, thanks for watching as you always do, guys. This is also the last spooky spot for 2015. Lone tier. I'm I know. But certainly, Spot's already planning 2016's spooky spots, so we'll definitely be staying tuned for those. As always, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. Ooh.